So we're going to begin our program. Thank you all for joining us here on Zoom. Welcome to the Duxbury Senior Center Booked for Lunch with Susan Branch on Zoom. This program is with Susan's Global Girlfriend Tribe, and we love the Girlfriend Tribe. You are a dedicated, loyal force, and we are honored to host you here on Zoom. Susan will be taking us to the English countryside, followed by a question and answer period. I am Andrea Brandeis. I am a part-time program coordinator here at the Duxbury Senior Center in Duxbury, Massachusetts. We love dreaming big at the Senior Center, and so does Susan. Some of Susan's favorite quotes are, "You're never too old for fairy tales. Keep all of your dreams alive for someday. Creativity is really the structuring of magic. If you dream it, you can make it so." So our dreams came true, and so did yours. Susan Branch is here today with all of us. We are her first PowerPoint presentation and her first ever Zoom webinar. We are making history together. You blew the doors off of our website and our Zoom registration. We hit just about 1,200 registrations, and all of you will be receiving a recording of this Zoom webinar program. Please continue to use our chat room to send Susan her love. We are enjoying the chat room. Continue to tell us where you are from, how long you have been a loyal fan and a girlfriend of Susan's, and what your favorite book is or favorite blog post. Please use our Q&A for our Q&A program at the end of the program. COVID can't keep us apart. Our building closed on March 13th, but the Duxbury Senior Center is very much open. The silver lining of COVID is that it's taken down all of the geographic barriers. Look at us all here today from around the world with Susan Branch. We could never have had this opportunity to be in person at one time. So welcome to the Zoom program. Susan will be raffling off 3 prizes that she will introduce us to at the end of the program. And now it is my pleasure to introduce your girlfriend, Susan Branch, to you. Susan is she is in the heart of her home in her kitchen.
Yeah.
Susan Branch, New York Times best-selling author, watercolor artist, queen of cozy, entrepreneur, businesswoman, community builder, joy multiplier, dreamer, believer, influencer, head of the Global Girlfriend Tribe, Joe, mother of Jack the cat, who has the happy gene, who loves cooking, gardening, riding trains, and England. Please give a warm virtual welcome to your girlfriend, Susan Branch.
And I'll do the applause part. That was so nice, Andrea. And I just have to thank you for all the work you've done to make this happen. She taught me how to do this. And I have to say, I'm so glad I know now. But last week was scary because it all sort of came together as it always does at the last minute, and it all thing. Hi, Jen Penn. You know, I'm going to be reading this thing, and I'd rather just read this and say hello to everybody than do the rest of it. So thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you too, Brooke. You're in there too, helping us put this thing together. And welcome to my kitchen. Most of you probably have been here before. So we're going to have a Calgon Zoom today because we're going to take you away. I put together a slideshow and we're going to go off to the English countryside. You've been there before too, but this we need to just do it as often as possible. And since we can't go in person, this is the next best thing. So now I have to push some buttons. This is when it gets scary. Here we go. I'm going to share the screen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Share the
Yes.
And I have to. Uh-oh. It says who can share, only host and all panelists. So do you need to hit all panelists or shall I do it?
You can hit all panelists, yes.
Okay, now what do I do? I'll hit it again. Share screen.
That screen?
It's not letting me. Are we sharing the screen?
Not yet, okay.
I'm gonna close this out. And now I'm gonna just do that again. What comes up is advanced sharing options, and it says who can share, and there's a place to check only host or all panelists, and who can start sharing when someone else is sharing, only host and all panelists. So I'll make both of them all panelists.
Okay.
Or I tried to click out of it and it doesn't go away.
I'm making you the host.
Okay, so now I'm going to click out of it.
Okay.
Now I'm going to share the screen, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look, they're telling us how to do it. Thank you, Maria. In on this. So here we go. No, it won't let me share the screen. How about that for a piece of information?
Okay.
There.
So,
there.
yep. Okay.
There.
You did it.
Ta-da.
All right.
Okay. So there's the map, and that's where we're going. And you have been here. Well, I tried to take everybody with me on my blog before. This is the most wonderful description of England I know. Of all delectable islands, the Netherlands is the snuggest and most compact, not large and sprawling, you know, with tedious distances between one adventure and another, but nicely crammed. And that's the truth. Every time you turn around, there is something. So all aboard, let's go. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Excellent.
All right. And off we go on the great ship across the sea. And we're leaving New York City. And it's all aboard. And you remember, some of you smuggled aboard on this trip. This is 2012 right here. And this is so that you will know, remember.
And this,
Here we go.
Is the Atlantic Ocean on a beautiful 62 degrees. Pretty smooth. Has been known to be smoother. But nice, huh? Right out the door of our room. Fun. Yeah. Okay, and so this is May 2012. And we are on our way to England aboard the Queen Mary 2. Couldn't be happier if we tried. We even set up a tripod so that when I fall over in this ship, you won't see it on the camera. Okay, it's good. Bye-bye.
So as you saw, this is 2012, and we're on our way to England, where for the very first time, I'm going to go to the Lake District and see Hilltop, the home of Beatrix Potter. And I'd wanted to go there for years. And this was the biggest surprise. The first night we were there, they were playing Miss Potter on the television in our room, and I took this picture. So I knew we were doing the right thing. And so I kept a diary the whole time, and wrote even on the ship and everywhere we went. And that diary that I kept in 2012 was inspired by this diary that I wrote in 2004. And you can see that we went to 26 gardens. I've listed everywhere we went on the left-hand side. And then that square in the middle is where Cool Wall I sent postcards to. And then we had a quest. We were going to fill the inspiration cup. We were going to fill it with food and pubs and gardens and houses and history. And we were sailing across the water. We were on the Queen Elizabeth and sailing with the Queen Mary, because they were going to retire the Queen Elizabeth. So this was her last trip home. And so it was kind of historical. And so this is that diary. And, this was all handwritten, all just for us. It's never been published. And in those days, there was no digital cameras, there were no cell phones, and we took pictures the old-fashioned way and had them developed along the way. And I cut them up and pasted them in the diary and wrote and painted around it and did it every night the whole time we were on the trip. I put in flowers that I found from the garden. And the other thing that we did on this trip that was very inspiring is we had our first picnic. And you can see here, the reason it's not published, I did not use the good handwriting. I just scribbled things out and added things in, and it didn't matter because it was just for us. And we stayed in a wonderful cottage in a landscape garden on a National Trust property called Stourhead, which was acres and acres of paths and meadows and lambs and bluebells. And every day we saw English people come out there on that lawn and spread their blankets and have picnics. So that was our inspiration. And I called up my girlfriend, Rachel, and I said, come over and have our picnic with us. And that's what this is. You can see just over her leg, those are little duck heads. Ducks and geese came over and we fed them bread. And you can see what we had to eat. We had olives and steak and mustard and buttered bread and chocolate cookies and iced tea. It says, as you can see, yesterday I finally set up my watercolor stuff. I also knitted, read, and cooked. It was a very good day. Joe came home. I don't know where he was, but he came home, which is good. Today was an absolute feast for the senses. The three of us lounging around on the lawn on our blanket with our blue and white tablecloth, champagne in nice glasses, sun-dappled under a tree next to the lake on a beautiful day, enjoying our feast. Delicious. The ducks, geese, and goslings came around for the bread we brought for them. I can't remember when I ever had a better day. It lasted for hours, lounging, eating, talking, watching the clouds scud by. So that was, you know, our wonderful picnic. And that was 2004. So now we're back into 2012. And, you know, I took that diary home, that old diary, and I showed it to all my girlfriends. And they said, you have got to go back and write one that you can publish because we need it. And so that's what this was about in 2012. I wanted to go write one. And if it came out nice, because I didn't know, then I was going to publish it. So I wrote this on the boat. When I was in my 20s, I fell in love with the little Beatrix Potter figurines made in Beswick, England, and saved my money to buy them. They've been lined up on a shelf in every kitchen I've ever had. Later, I read her life story and found out she was a late bloomer just like me. She believed in fairies, and me too. Her entire life changed when she was in her late 30s, and me too. She survived heartbreak, me too. She moved far from home to start a new life, bought a small cottage, and became house crazy in the country place she loved, and I did that too. Books changed both our lives forever. Me and her were like that. And now I get to go see her house. I'm so hoping I find her spirit alive and well and living at Hilltop, although she died only 4 years before I was born. So a secret part of me believes her spirit might be alive and well and living in me. And then I was a little embarrassed that I wrote that. So in little tiny letters, I wrote, tell no one I said this. So anyway, so this was the beginning. And off the boat we go, and here we are. Off to see the wizard, as my mother would say. So over hill and dale on the wrong side of the road, we went to pubs, lots of pubs, all of them. They're so charming, and all of them are different. And they're just cozy, and the food is delicious. And we had lots of pear cider every day. And we went to lots of graveyards because that's where you find the history of England, of the world, really. And stone villages in wildflower meadows all over the place. And we would sit in tea rooms outside and have tea and cider, and I would take notes of what we were doing and where we were. And one of the things we loved most is that the English countryside is all handmade. It was built before electricity, so there are no two windows alike, no two roof lines alike, no two chimneys alike. It's all art. You feel like you're just going from, and it's all real, and all, as you can see, created by the people. In fact, William Morris said that the people were all artists in those days. And we went to wonderful houses and that were open to the public, and almost all of them had a tea room, and looked at some of the delicious things we had. And so we went to beautiful gardens, and this is Snowsill. And if you can ever get a chance to go there, they call it Snowsill or something close to that, but it's Snows Hill in English, American English. So this is the garden, and it's much bigger, it's huge. And in the middle of the garden, they've got this little house, this little stone house. And the first time I saw this, I sat there looking at it and thinking, there's no really windows in this house. And I kept looking at it, and all of a sudden I saw birds going in and out of that top, what looked sort of like a window. And I found out it was a dovecote, and it was built for the birds, okay? I know you're all oohing and ahhing over that because I am. And then, you know, I had to take a close-up picture of the top of it. So all white doves. It was just absolutely beautiful, stunning, quirky too. And just outside of Snowsville, which you have to walk through to get to the house. And that's a big black rook flying there. And sheep, of course. And this is in the little town of Snowsville, and a darling little town. And this is their pub. And interestingly, you'll see the graveyard right there. And it's the thing I love about English graveyards. They're just right in the middle of town. And so they sort of keep the people, you know, in the midst of things. They don't shuffle them off to some side somewhere. And they're right in front of the pub and right next to the phone booth. So they're never alone. And of course, I took pictures of everything. Pull over, Joe. I've got to look at the light on those poppies. And there he is. And we're in Rosemary Veery's garden. And that is it used to be her home, and now it's a hotel and a wonderful restaurant. And you can go there and stay, or you can have dinner there, because the garden is not really open to the public, but if you have lunch there, you get to go, lunch or dinner. So of course we had lunch and dinner there. And it's huge and it's wonderful. And we walked and walked and walked because that's what we love to do, next to rivers, sheep everywhere. You know, you're just with the farm animals over there. And, you know, there's some of our sheep. That mama looks so happy. And that little opening there is a stile. It's a stone stile. The sheep can't get through it, but we can. And so that's how you just go from all through the countryside and from farm to farm to farm. And, you know, most of the sheep are very quiet and docile. The cows are a little bit different, and we're not quite sure, you know, of them, because they get very interested in us. And as you can see, Joe is moving away from it. I'm laughing because he's being chased by cows. So we stayed all over in different kinds of places. This is our little house out in the middle of nowhere that turned out to be in the middle of a wildflower field. And it was heaven there. And we had dinner on the porch there. And Joe would read his map and I would read my guidebooks. And it was just a perfect way to spend the day. And it, you know, I fell in love with everything. It just was perfect. So we were on our way to Beatrix Potter's house, and through near Ambleside, I think this house was. If you are a house person, you will love England. They are everywhere, charming, beautiful, wonderful old houses. And I knew when I saw this sign, we were getting close. And keep all your dreams alive for someday. I want to go back. That's one of my dreams I'm keeping alive. So we came upon the sign and it came up so fast, I really wasn't ready for it. I'd waited so long for this and I almost didn't want to go in. I was too attached to my anticipation, you know, that little thrill. So I felt like it was almost scary. What if I'd made too much of it? And what if I was disappointed? So, but we were here and we were definitely going in. So here we go. And up the path, up her garden path we went, and I couldn't see the house from there, but I knew that's where the bunnies lived. And there it was, covered in white wisteria and pink roses and decked out with bunting, and not very many people were there. We were really lucky. We felt like we'd just, you know, come at the perfect time. House is 17th century. And Beatrix added that piece on at the far end because that's where her farm manager lived. And I saw this window and I knew we were in the right place because it looked just like the little shelf over my kitchen sink with all my little critters on there that I've been collecting since I was about 22. So now here I am just coming out of the house. They didn't allow picture taking inside, but I had carried paper and pencil just in case, and I made notes and drawings while I was in there. And you can see the porch there behind me, and there's Beatrix Potter, famous picture standing on her porch. And nothing had really changed. Beatrix spent years pouring herself into this little house. It was her fresh beginning, and you could feel her in every, it was perfect. And so I took this back, there's my notes, and I wrote all kinds of things. There's that little picture I sketched while we were in there, and then I was starting to draw it here. And I wrote, please, this was a sign that was in the room. Please try not to touch. Please try not to touch. And I wrote underneath it, they must understand some people won't be able to help themselves, but we are trying. And aren't they polite? Please try not to. It wasn't easy. And then we left and we walked outside the gate, and I took this picture of the little town. And at that time I had no idea that the house on the right there had any sort of special meaning, but I did notice it. I loved the flag in the window, and I thought of all the houses there was just something about that, and it sort of shined. But Joe and I had lots more to do, and so we went off to explore the Lake District. We needed to visit the Armit Museum and see all of her work that's there. We went to William Wordsworth's house, went to Dove Cottage, we ate gingerbread at Sarah Nelson's Bakery. I know a lot of you have been there, and of course you've done these things too, because it's what you have to do if you go there. We had pear cider at Tower Bank Arms, and took a walk out to Moss Eccles Tarn, where Beatrix and her husband went fishing in the evenings. She would sketch and he would fish, and see that little tiny white fence, little gate over Joe's head. That is the side entrance to Hilltop, just so you get the lay of the land. It's beautiful, wonderful rock walls all over the country. And here's one of them. And you see the kind of work they put into it, but they built that little hole in there specifically for the critters, for the foxes and the badgers. The sheep could not go through, but the little things could go through the fields. And that included the hedgehog, the famous fairy beast of the Lake District. I got to paint him for the very first time. He's going to go into my new diary. He's going to be in Enchanted. Isn't he just, I just want him. So we also stopped to have tea at this place, and we had to. It's in Grasmere, and it's called Fairyland. So you have no choice, you must pull over. And what's wonderful about it is they have little rowboats there, and you can rent them and go out on that little lake, and then come in and have tea and cake and write in your diary or whatever you want to do. It's heaven. Everybody's got dogs there. It's just a wonderful place to be. Another one. And we also took a boat out onto Lake Windermere. And these are old boats that they have there. And they just take you up and down the lake and drop you off at little villages all along the way. And so we went out, but it was pouring rain. We weren't getting dropped off. We just went for the ride. And I'm standing next to the wheelhouse and listening to the captain of the boat tell me how important Beatrix Potter was to this area. And he waved his hand out in front of him and said, see all that land? She left all of that to be forever wild. She left over 4,000 acres and 16 farms. And she was one of the founders of the National Trust, actually a very good friend of the founder. And she and her husband were very much into preserving the landscape and the farming culture, and they just didn't want to have it taken over by developers. So that was her passion in life. That's what she really did. And the National Trust has that motto, for everyone, forever. And it's perfect. And that's what Beatrix Potter did for the Lake District and for us. We're on the boat still, and he comes up close here to Ray Castle. This is the first place Beatrice's parents stayed when they rented their first house in the Lake District. And that bird came right into the picture. So I thought that was wonderful. So now we went back, because of course we couldn't leave without going one more time. And then by this time I knew what that house was all about. And it's called Castle Cottage. It's where Beatrix Potter and her husband, Willie Heelis, lived together for 30 years. And, you know, what shocked me, because I never knew that they lived anywhere but Hilltop. I thought Hilltop was where she lived her whole life. So I looked at that house and I thought, oh no. And I wanted to, like, how do I get in there? But it wasn't public. There was no way about it. So I just stood there in the rain and looked at it, yearning, and loved the flag in the window. And look at that. So we had to go home because I had work to do. And I had to try and see what this book was going to be like. And I decided to call mine romance Falling in Love with the English Countryside for obvious reasons. And, but this was 2012, and it was going to be my first book since my autumn book in 2004. And the world had changed. Bookstores and publishers were suffering because of this new thing called Amazon. And it became clear to me that if I wanted to write this diary book, which I did, I kept diaries all my life, I wanted to write a diary, I was going to have to figure out how to do it myself, because my publisher really only wanted cookbooks, and I wanted to do this. So I had to figure it out, and Joe and I did. We figured out how to publish it and get it shipped and all the things. And of course, we could not have done it without the girlfriends. All of you out there. We could not have done it without you, because as you can see, I wrote it all by hand, and there's my pages. Each page I'd put into a plastic sleeve, and they kept piling up and piling up. And I would talk to everybody on the blog that it was coming. And so it was like, you know, without them, because this was the first non-cookbook that I'd ever done, and first real writing I'd ever done, I was lucky that I had the girlfriends, because they kept me going with their encouragement and their inspiration and our connection. And so many of them had come on the trip virtually. I had written about it, written blogs about it the whole time we were away. And now they wanted the book, and so did I. And so we basically did it together. Right. And here's the pages I wrote about Beatrix Potter. And up the stone steps we went, down the long path. So it was very exciting. And I was very surprised when I was there that Beatrix, being such a sheep-loving person, did not make a lamb figurine like all the others. So I painted this one in the book, and I called her Lammy Pie Cuddle Bunch, because I thought that sounded like one of Beatrix's names. And I put her on Lake Windermere. And then Sherry, who works for me, she had a 12-year-old daughter. She still has her daughter, but she's not 12 anymore. And named Maddie, copied it and made me this little figurine for Christmas. And she signed it and dated it. So I do have my own lamb figurine now. Pretty cute, huh? And the other thing that happened when I got back home is I realized that if I didn't know that she lived about Castle Cottage, what else didn't I know? So I started reading, and I wrote down that timeline to help me keep track. Every one of these books offered something, big things and little things, little tidbits, like that Beatrix had a cow she called Kitchen, which I thought was a great name for a cow. And she had a pig she called Aunt Susan, which I did not hold against her. And but that book in the middle, Beatrix Potter, A Life in Nature by Linda Lear, that's the one. That is the full story of Beatrix Potter's life, and it's absolutely beautifully written. I relished every word. If you open that book, you find so many underlines and things written in the margins. And what I came to understand, I never read her books as a child. They got by me somehow, but it really wasn't her books. The thing she was most famous for wasn't as important as just who she was, her story, the way the events in her life inspired her to action. From the moment Norman Warren died, she was engaged to him when she was 39, and a month later he died. From the moment that happened, she completely changed. She became her own person, but she never forgot him. She kept mementos of him and their short time together for her whole life. But her struggle for independence from her family and the way she overcame obstacles and honored her dreams and became the person she was meant to be was so inspiring to me. With the money she made from her success, which was a lot, she could have done anything. She could have bought a huge mansion and been the toast of London and had champagne and caviar every night. But instead, she chose a small cottage in a little village and a small life, the sky and the wind and the sheep. And it was perfect for her. She saved it all for us, which makes it even better, making her little life a very big life indeed. Because if there was one thing I learned about Beatrix, she was true to herself. And that is not always the easiest thing to be. So if you ever have a chance to read some of the books about her, you'll find her to be a very complicated, interesting person. And I found this little timeline in a Gladys Tabor book that I had gotten at a used bookstore. And I thought, well, how perfect, they belong together. And the little, also Beatrix was a scientist, and from her own natural interests, nothing she learned in school, and her country childhood, she spent years studying and painting mushrooms and lichens and fungi in their natural habitat when she was on her summer vacations in the Lake District, and without even knowing that she was studying it. And later she wrote about her discoveries, and despite her wonderful, notable work, any thoughts of becoming a scientist were dashed by the man-only culture of the times. They wouldn't let her in. They kept her out. And in fact, she wrote such an amazing paper and discovered something none of the rest of them had, that in the 1990s, the Linnean Society, which is the people in charge who kept her out, apologized to her. A little late, but you know, they decided she really, and they still use her drawings in scientific works today. So that happened all before the books. And down in the right-hand corner was the first time she was published. She didn't write that little book, she illustrated it. She did it when she was 24, which was 11 years before the Beatrix Potter books came out. So this was her first, she knew she had something there. And it was after that she did the science, produced this paper. And when that fell through, she went back to, writing books. And so as I was back, at home and writing a fine romance, I joined the Beatrix Potter Society, and I started meeting other members. And this is Suzanne Terry on the right. She's holding my book. She wanted to show that it had made it back to the Lake District, which was, made my day. And the gal on the left is Betsy Bray, and she lives on the Cape, and she is a Beatrix Potter expert, American, and she speaks all over the country, and she came to the island to speak at our little library, and I went to see her and invited her to tea, and we became friends. She honored me with an invitation to speak with her at the Brewster Ladies Library on Beatrix Potter's 150th birthday celebration. So we kept in touch over the years. And a couple of years later, she called me, that's her on the left, and she said, I have someone special visiting me. Can I bring her to lunch? And I said, of course. Who is it? And she said, well, her name is Mandy Marshall, and you're not going to believe it, but she lives at Castle Cottage in Beatrix's house. And I just about fell out of my chair. She said, can I bring her to the island for lunch? And I said, yes. And it was like, how could this possibly be happening? And there it was. And so there's Joe, and he's there, and that's Mandy in the middle. And we had such a wonderful time. I told her that I had stood looking at her house and thinking about coming over and breaking in, and she told me I should have. So I don't know if she meant that or not, but she brought pictures, and I answered millions of questions that I have. And I told her all about our trip to, my first trip to Hilltop, and we just had a great time visiting. And I also told her about a picnic that I had because we had gone back and had a picnic at Stourhead, inspired by the picnic I'd had with Rachel. And I told Mandy that I had invited the blog to come with us and to meet us at the Grass Bridge in Stourhead at 12 noon, BYO picnic basket. Didn't know who was coming or how many. We just showed up. Rachel's there also, and this is it. And this is everybody who was there. And you can see in the bottom left, we all spread our blankets and we moved from blanket to blanket and visited. And I'm still in touch with a lot of these people. And it's, it was a really wonderful, fun thing to do. So I told Mandy about it and she thought it was great too. And she pulled out a picture of her house, of Castle Cottage, with her dog Ollie on the lawn. And she said, how about if you have another picnic? How about if you have it on Beatrix Potter's garden? And I said, can I invite all my girlfriends? And she said, yes, you can. And not only that, I'll make a special tour for anyone who doesn't feel like driving in England or doesn't have someone to travel with. And so she put together this tour and we toasted with our cups. And that winter, I painted a lamb and made a little badge and got ready and designed a cup to commemorate the moment. And that spring, back to England we went, hill and dale once again. And through the English countryside, just as beautiful, all sitting there waiting for us right now. And back into town, and you can see I'm standing right where I was on that rainy day, looking so sad at that house, but now I was going there. And so here we are at the gate, and Joe is getting out of the car. He's going to open the gate for us. And there we are, Mandy. Now she had a new puppy. She had Ollie, and she had this new puppy named Stan. Ollie and Stan and Ollie. And I can't, she's talking to me, but I can't even hear her because my ears are just like ringing from, I can't believe where I am. I'm in Beatrix Potter's garden. And I could feel her there because she did most of it. She planted the things that were there and nothing has changed at all. You can look across and see Hilltop. And we're standing there listening to the sheep and the birds. And it was just such a moment. And then she's going to let me come into the house. I did feel Beatrix out in the garden, but not so much in the house because it had been completely remodeled inside. All the crunchy bits that would have been in an old house were gone, and which they probably had to. Beatrix bought it in 1913, and she never put in electricity, so she just kept it as it was. She liked her oil lamps and candlelight. So when the house went to the National Trust after Beatrix died, she probably went to them around 1946. They didn't plan to use it for tours because they had Hilltop. So they fixed it up so that people like Mandy could live there and care for the house because it did belong to the National Trust. And that's what Mandy does. She cares for the house. And that's Beatrix and her husband, Willie Heelis, on the day they were married. And her hat gets a chair, if you notice that. It deserves one. And so, but the one thing about the house was the doorknob that entered into the house from there. That did not look like it had changed. And I just thought about all the hands that had touched that over the years. And I like that. So this is the main room that I wanted to show you. And it's the room in which Beatrix died. And she had that view at the very end. And she wrote this little thing up at the top here about that she thanked God that she had the seeing eye because she could walk over the rough land and the fells and see every stone and flower that her old legs would not take her to ever again. And so if you get up close to the windows, that's the view down there on the right. And Beatrix was 47 when she married Willie, and he was like 42. He's sort of like me and Joe, and they were young. They had some time together. And right, if you upper left hand again, just behind me where I'm standing taking that picture, there's a big round table, and on the table are Beatrix Potter's photo albums, original photo albums. And Mandy let me get up close to them and take pictures right into the album. So, there she is. And she hardly ever smiles. You see, she just doesn't. A picture on the right, to me, just her eyes. It's just like she just knows who she is. Her dad took these pictures. He was a photographer, and he, in a time nobody did. And his family was his victims, basically. He took lots of pictures. And I love the boots, and I think about, the lacing up. There must have been more hours in a day in those days. And that little linen suit on her on the left, who wouldn't want to have that? I love it. I would wear it today if I had it. And then down on the right, Beatrix was she raised this special breed of sheep called Herdwick. And you see her in the back with one of her lovely hats on, and she is smiling because she's winning a special prize for her sheep. And she helped save these sheep from, they were close to going extinct, but they became her favorite thing. And so that is another thing she did for the Lake District. And all those farms, those 16 farms that she left, were working farms, and they all raised these sheep. And they're all owned by the National Trust now. So, and there she is on her porch again with her Pekingese. This is only a year before she died, wearing her cute hat, looking more like Miss Tiggy Winkle all the time. Something else she and I have in common. I think it just comes with the territory. And let's see, where are we going next? Oh, we're gonna go back to the porch because Mandy has tea for us. And I'm gonna be quiet here for a minute so you can hear the sheep, okay?
I've got the numbers inside, I think it's 40. And then there are about half who said they didn't want to go to Hilltop York. Plus the tall York.
Wow. Say hi to everybody, both of you. Hi, everybody. We're having tea on Beatrix Potter's porch. You might not know, I'm walking backwards, so I'm not going to fall down. And can you see it? Oh, you will. Just look what the light was. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
So you can tell I was beside myself, and you know, it just was great. And so you see what she made. Mandy made us that cake, and it was just a great, great afternoon. So let's see, there we go. And the next day, I got to go back to Hilltop. It was time for our picnic. And this is me standing at that little white gate. Remember I showed you over Joe's shoulder? Well, now there I am. I'm at the gate, so you can kind of get the lay of the land there. And up the little path I went, and there's the house, just as it always was. And I leaned against the wall there because that was a place that Beatrix often had her picture taken, and I wanted to feel her there. And I did. Hilltop's way different than Castle Cottage. You totally feel her there. And then I did not try to dress like her, but it kind of turned out that way. When I got home and put these two pictures together, I thought, oh, I loved it. So there we go, into the house now. Oh, see the hat in Beatrix's hand? Well, it's in the house. And there's her clogs, her shoes that she wore, her farm shoes. And this is the first room you go into when you walk in that door. And all her collections are there. There's a table in the middle of the room. And you see her hat on her chair over there. And she made her tea in that stove. That was her stove. Can you imagine? I would love to have bread come out from inside that little door. And her clock and her spinning wheel, her rocking chair. This is just, you know, just exactly the way she left it for everyone. And Joe's face says exactly how I felt in there. Just amazed at the whole thing. And I was so happy to be able to bring a camera. That was the really good part about this. That this time I got to bring the camera and, you know, and be able to show the pictures to you. See the wallpaper on the ceiling? It's 100 years old and it's William Morris. And I loved it. I thought it was just heaven. She put it there. And down at the bottom is, she collected antiques, much older antiques than we are allowed to collect. This one has 1667, this chest has 1667 carved on it. And above it are plates that her dad painted. They're one of a kind, and he painted them. And if you can see, just off to the right, there's a little crack, a door into the parlor, much more formal, where she had guests, I guess. And then up the stairs to the second floor, where I just went from window to window and took pictures of the views, because it was just, I wanted to see what she saw. And so this is exact, nothing has changed from the time she lived here. And she had this room, and it was called her treasure room. And she would, practically with a microscope looking at everything and asking questions. I had someone in there telling me everything there was to know about these things. And I even painted that little teapot. It's called a coronation teapot, and it's got a pink crown on it. I painted that for the book, and some of her teacups. And in the lower left corner is her dollhouse. And it is just filled with little hunka-munka and little plates of food and a little fireplace. You can, when you go, you have to stick your face right up close to that because it's worth it. She would come across, whenever she could, she would come across Post Office Meadow from Castle Cottage and rearrange her treasures up here. And she wanted it to be left exactly the way she put it. So, of course, it was as a gift for us. So that was the house, and after the house, off we were going to the picnic. And just around the corner and back up to Castle Cottage. And there everybody was. We did not know how many would come. We did not know where they'd come from, but I asked everybody. We had England and America and Italy and Germany, Norway and Ireland. Whole families we had. We had girlfriends on road trips, mothers and daughters and sisters, and we were all eating cucumber sandwiches and stuffed eggs on the sacred ground and listening to the lambs and the birds, and it was you just meeting everybody. And look how cute everyone was dressed. It was cold. It was much colder than the first picnic. But some of you girls are going to see yourselves in here. I shouldn't turn it too quickly, but you probably have this picture at home. And so Heaven Day, and I'll always remember it because I wrote it all down. And this will be someday my book called Enchanted, which has started but not finished because I broke my wrist last year. I should just tell this. I broke my wrist last year, and so that just stopped me. And then the minute I got well, I had to do the calendars that have just come in. And then the minute that got done, we had a pandemic, or a damn panic, as Joe calls it. And I had to do a Christmas book because I knew we were going to need one this year. So I just stopped and did a Christmas book, and now I'll go back to Enchanted again. Okay, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Here we go. And that's the end. Except, of course, it's not really the end because I know that I would be derelict in my duty if I did not put pictures of Jack in here. So there he is. That's my studio. He's in there peeking out the window. Or asleep on the couch with his hand over his eyes. Don't bother me. Because it's great to go away, but what makes going away so fun is coming home. And speaking of home, this is my new book. It's called Home for Christmas. And I think probably everybody who's watching this has already got a copy, but we're going to give one away today. So they're going to have a drawing, and whoever wins, I'll get it's going to be signed. I'll sign it to you. And so I think Andrea is going to tell us at the end who wins, okay? And this is another present. This is going to give away a puzzle. This is my new puzzle. It's 1,000 pieces, and it comes in at the end of October. So she'll give me your address, your name and address, and I will mail it to you. You'll have it in time. If you want one, all this stuff you can get, on my website, which of course you know, susanbranch.com. And if you haven't seen it yet, right at the top of the page, it says, I love England. If a little drop down comes down there, you should go and see my Peter Rabbit room because I think you would love it. And one last thing, we got some new Santa cups just came in. And so I'm going to send out one of those too. So there's going to be 3 names drawn at the end here. And the best gifts are tied with heartstrings, aren't they? So this is going to be the end. And I just wanted to say a little something about this damn panic. And that is that, it's been rough, and it's been, Joe and I were talking the other night, and we were, he was sad. We both were sad. And we were just saying, how long is this going to go? It's going forever. And we talked about what we missed the most, and what we missed the most were hugs. And so what we decided to do was hug each other more. And so that's what we've been doing. We stop and hug each other like 4 or 5 times a day, just for no reason. And I have to say, it is helping. And the other thing that helps, oddly enough, is if you hug yourself. And so I want you all to hug yourselves right now, and pretend it's me hugging you. Because if we were at a book signing, it would be. And, we just have to feel that connection the best way we know how. And we're so lucky that we have all of this to do it with, and smart people like Andrea to teach us how to do it. So don't waste it. It won't last forever. It's a great time. We're all growing from this. The world won't be the same. When you think about all the folks in England who had to live through the war and have bombs dropped on them, we're so lucky because, as I say, we're not stuck at home. We're safe at home. And if we miss each other this Christmas, just imagine how wonderful next Christmas will be. So hug for health, hugging for health, don't forget. And I want to thank all the nurses and the doctors and the first responders, because we could not do this without them. Our people at the supermarket that have come in and put themselves in danger to make things okay for us. We're so grateful, and we never want to forget that, because we are surrounded by heroes all the time. And I also want to tell you that there will be more events like these. So if you have a friend or someone who didn't get to do it and wants to, watch the events section in the right-hand column on my blog, because I will put more which events are going to happen.
Great job. Oh, wonderful. All right. We're just going to continue here. We're going to, how about a little Q&A? We've got some wonderful questions, and I want to share them with you. Let's enjoy our time together. So here are some questions that came in. Let's see. What is your favorite noise? What do you love? A sound that you love?
Well, one sound I really love is the sound of a pottery teacup hitting a saucer. It just sounds so cozy to me, and I always love it. Look, I can read all these things. Hi, Debbie Brennan.
Fantastic.
Hi, Linda Squires. Hi, Mary Rivercombe.
Susan, if you couldn't live on Martha's Vineyard or England, where would you love to live?
Well, I would have to go back to San Luis Obispo, because that's where I have so many friends, and that's where basically kind of grew up, and I love it there. The only thing wrong with it doesn't have seasons. It doesn't have fall. I've become addicted to fall. And in fact, we've got a rainy day here today. And you see up back a little bit? Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's a treat. Can you give us an update on the movie of your book?
Oh, the movie. Okay, well, the problem, poor Hollywood right now, they're having a big problem making anything, because, the makeup people, they're right in each other's faces, and the costumers, and people who have to kiss in the shows. And so they're not making a lot of Hollywood things right now. Masks really wouldn't do it, I don't think, for the big screen. So, but it's still in the works. They are still shopping it. Every once in a while, they get a little nibble. We did, have an opportunity to have it be a Hallmark movie, but they were going to change it so much that, they weren't going to have any Cliff in it. Well, you got to have him. Otherwise, how do I get miserable? Well, you have to have me be miserable so I can get really happy. So we just we said no to, but you never know. I don't expect it, but you just never know.
Well, we're going to manifest it.
Okay, good. Everybody think movie, book to movie.
Definitely. Here's a great question. If you could speak to your 23-year-old self, what would you say?
Oh, well, I'd tell her to stop worrying And yes, you will, you know, be happy someday. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life when I was 23, and I thought I was supposed to know. But 23-year-olds, I think lucky people who are 23 and do know what they want to do. And there are some, but I think for most people, we don't know. And we're flailing. And we think because, you know, we're tall and our feet reach the pedals in the car that we're supposed to be fully formed. And I did not know that I was not fully formed, and I wouldn't be until maybe 40. So there are certain things you're supposed to do when you're 23. You're supposed to try everything because you're like a little magnet, and all the things are coming to you that will make you who you are, that you have to find out. You are your own little science project. And the other thing is that you should really take lots of pictures of yourself in your cutest outfits, because when you're 50, you're going to want them. So that's my advice to 23-year-olds. I didn't take enough of those pictures. I have some, but I could have used a few more.
Oh, that is wonderful. Just wonderful. Well, one of my favorite quotes that really helped me get through the pandemic and made me look forward to our wonderful event together here on Zoom. Oh, Jack. Oh.
I figured I better get him while the getting's good. Hi, everybody. Oh, look, he does not even want to wave.
What a treat.
He wants to go. Okay, you. All right, go ahead.
Is your wonderful quote of, "And when the world seems to be falling apart around you, create something, put a flower in a vase, bake a pie, draw a picture, and knit socks." And you've taught us all just that.
It makes you feel so much better about what's going on. Just be in your home, you know, enjoy what you've got, because we've got so much.
We sure do. And we can be in community and have our connections and friendship and joy right here together with you on Zoom, on your social, through your blog. We are so grateful to you. You are the global girlfriend tribe leader for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved every minute of it. And I love with all our girlfriends out there. I just wish we were, you know, I don't know. I really feel like I know everybody, you know, it's funny that way. But.
For sure, for sure. Now we're going to announce the 3 winners of the 3 prizes that Susan has generously offered for today. To the 3 winners, if you would kindly send an email to programs@duxburycoa.com.
Let me write that down too. And then
I'll put it in the chat room, and it's going to go to
perfect.
programs@duxburycoa.com. And you all know that address because that's how you got your Zoom invitation. So the 3 winners are going to email us at programs@duxburycoa.com. The winner of the Home for Christmas book is Beverly Merino Ring. That is Beverly Merino Ring. Congratulations, Beverly.
Congratulations.
The winner of the puzzle, the 1,000-piece puzzle, is Christine Faircloth. Christine Faircloth.
Congratulations.
And
look at that, yay.
And the winner of the Santa Cup is Wynette Jeffrey. Wynette Jeffrey. Congratulations, Wynette.
Congratulations, all of you guys.
And
oh, it's so fun.
Will you read this to us?
Go be love. The world needs you. Yeah, wonderful.
For
A
sure.
fine romance, my friends. This is. Thank you so much. It was wonderful, Andrea. Thank you, Brooke. I can't see you, but I know you're there.
Tribe. This is great. This recording will be sent to Susan, and Susan will be posting it on her blog. We too at the Duxbury Senior Center will be sharing it with all 1,174 registered guests for this program. Please check our website out. We'd love to have you come back to any program that we offer on Zoom because, like Susan, we believe in community, connection, friendship, and joy. Thank you all for joining us. All right, Susan, take us out.
Okay, bye everybody. Love you. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you on the blog. Okay? Bye. Bye.